What's going on, everybody? Uh, Welcome back to another video. This one I'm extremely excited to be making, um, and you'll see why here shortly. But this one's going to be covering the S&P, all things S&P, and is going to be a not so much a rebuttal, but my response to this video here that I made just about a month ago, almost a month exactly, where I was talking about potential market correction, why I thought it was going where it was, what my thought process and thesis was behind it, and where I thought it was going. So, first of all, I want to say in the most nicest and humble way possible, I told you so. And this is to everyone who doubted me and who was telling me that I was crazy and that the SPY was going to 500 before it came back to 420s. And as I said and I have proof, and I'll show you all of this, um, uh, 3 weeks to a month ago, I began saying that this was coming, and no one believed me, and everyone told me that I was just crazy and I was just a bear, even though I've always been bullish my entire life. But you can't be a perma bear or a perma bull all the time, or else you get crushed in situations like this. So first of all, before I get into everything else, I've had a lot of people asking me, um, "What is SPY? What is it? I don't know what it is. Can you explain it?" So first of all, I just want to explain that all SPY is just a smaller, cheaper S&P fund. And so what is the S&P? The S&P is just a basket of popular and well-performed stocks put into one fund for people to buy that don't know much about investing. They can just have their money all in one place. So for example, their holdings here, their top holdings are Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, Google, another Google, Nvidia, Berkshire Hathaway, Facebook, or Meta, and then United Health. So all these are their top 10 holdings, but they have hundreds more, in total 500 other stocks in this fund for people to invest in. So the S&P, the SPY, moves on the performance of these as well as their total 507 holdings. So that's all the S&P is it's marking the performance of the S&P. That's what SPY does. Okay, so now to get into what I've been saying was going to happen for weeks now. And it started back, well, it started with that video that I just showed you back on March 22nd, so just about a month ago. And I told you, I said, we'll see what happens. I said, we'll revisit this video here in a few weeks. And now it's been a few weeks, and the move has finally happened that I was calling for. And so this started, and I have all the pictures to prove it. This started with this tweet here. This was on March 17th. As you can see, I've said this once and will continue to say it. I believe this melt up we're seeing on SPY is artificial, and some won't be able to see it until it's too late. By artificial, I mean big money market makers, etc., are pumping this. And so that tweet came right here. Tweet came right here. I also, and you can go watch this video, the old video I'm referring to. I can link it in the description so you can go back and hear what my point was, and why I thought the way I did. And so following that tweet, I let things work out because I wasn't trying to call the top, and that's what a lot of people needed to understand. I was not trying to call the top of the S&P. I was just warning everybody that this move was coming in the very near term. So a few days go by here, and this move is still happening, which is fine. I wasn't worried or anything because, as I said, I'm not trying to call the top. And so once I saw this get put in, I was ensured that this was the top here. So a few days have passed, and then here on the 5th, I came back with this tweet. I was busy and not trading during this, but I had the S&P up on this day. I wasn't trading, but I had the S&P up and saw this move. And so I tweeted, "I was at finally time on SPY. Big money began exiting late this morning, in my opinion, and it was blatantly obvious. This is just the start of what weeks of market makers propping will turn into. And this was the day here. They put the nail in the coffin here. You could tell. So days leading up to this day, we saw strong selling like here and here and here, all these days leading up to it. But this selling was like no other. And you could tell just by watching it in real time that this was clearly hedge funds, market makers, people with huge amounts of money exiting their positions. And the price the following days will tell you that. We gapped down. Um, and so I'm still pounding the table on 420s. 420 is my price target in the 420s. Everything. And like I said, it started here. It started when we were at 445, and we made this move, which is fine. I wasn't trying to call the top, and then the retracement started, and this was the nail in the coffin. And the sad thing was, all the people that told me that I was wrong calling it here around 445, 450, and saying it was going to 500. These people were even more confident after seeing this, and it come right back down to where I called it. They still told me that I was completely wrong. We're going to 500. I just want to be a bear to crash the market, even though I've never been a bear before, etc., whatever else. And then, so on the 12th comes now, and this we based out after this long sell-off. And so here on the 12th, everyone was thinking we're just going to base and rip again. So again, to stick to my thesis, I came out and said, following my tweet on the 5th, I said more longs are bagged again after this morning's rally. Quote unquote rally. I was being sarcastic, and it had no reason. There was no reason behind it from what I was seeing, and I was loving the price action that I was seeing intraday over the last week from a bearish perspective, because I would never change from bearish. This is the most important part. Still thinking 420s near term, and we'll die on that hill. And I was okay. I was perfectly fine with being wrong. I was gonna pound 420s into the table for until we hit 420s or until we hit 500, whatever, like everyone else was saying. Still thinking 420s on the 12th. Everyone thought we were gonna rip up, and this sell-off was just normal. And so we consolidate, and we give this another push up to 450, and everyone's like, "Told you so, told you so, told you so," whatever else. And then look, the last 3 days have been a bleed. And now we put in a low today. I'm making this midday. Market's still moving. And look at what this low is. If you look at the top up here, 419.99. It's almost like we hit that number 420 on the absolute dot for weeks that I've been calling and telling people. And there were so many things out there that were pointing this direction that no one can see. So, I mean, I'll just bring out the notepad as I always do to explain some things to engrave in people's heads. So first of all was the overperformance of SPY in 2021. The market average was 7%, 7% average. Last year, the S&P returned, if I'm not mistaken, it was 27%, almost four times average return. That just doesn't make sense. Rate hikes beginning. Rate hikes were beginning. They began in March. We have another one coming here in May. And in May, they have now pointed and almost made it obvious that they're looking for a 50 basis point, if I could type, basis point hike in May, which would be the most aggressive hike by the Fed since 1990s. That's important. And now, Jerome Powell, Fed chair, came out the other day and he said that most on the committee felt that up to 3 50 basis point hikes would be quote unquote appropriate. And then he was asked if he was one of those that voted yes for up to 350 basis point hikes, and he said, "I will not give my answer on that." So we can assume that he is a fan of that. I mean, you could guess either way, but if he's going to come out and say that he won't answer something that could affect the market in such a way, you can pretty much guarantee he said yes. And now another thing we have that we've known and was another part of the reason I was calling for this correction was the Fed is now unloading $90 billion monthly from the balance sheet, and the market's going to feel that. And that was one of the main reasons why I was calling for this, because when you have the Fed with the largest balance sheet they've ever had, which is 9 trillion, which I believe is something like 20% of all the world's total GDP, and they're going to start unloading 90 billion monthly throughout the markets, that's you just know that downside has to happen in that case. And now, not only that is we have had our first hike. Now we're coming up on our second in May, which could be another 50 basis points. Most aggressive hike, by the way, since the 90s, remember. And not only that, after May, we could have that 2 more times, which is just crushing. And then now this is big earnings season right now. And so we've already gotten big earnings from Netflix, which they got crushed. Disney, they also had poor earnings. A lot of these blue chip names that everyone relies on for long-term investing strategies and names that are known to overperform, their earnings have been disappointing, and that is where another big chunk of this comes from. Because remember what I said, the SPY is just a big basket of stocks that have overperformed and have been, you can rely on them long term if you don't know anything. And so their performance takes a toll on the SPY, because after all, it's just they own that stock, it's just a smaller portion of it. Um, and so we also, in that one video that I posted, which again I'll link in the description, on the 22nd of March, uh, I had said I had highlighted all of the huge SPY put premiums that we had, and all of the largest premiums range from anywhere from 420 like 2 level up to 425. So this is just a sweet spot. All those guys are paid now, um, and so there was so much moves from investors and big banks calling for this to come as well. A lot of people are just oblivious and arrogant to it because they want to be perma bulls and they want to see the market do nothing but just skyrocket, which is good for nobody. And then this, if you don't use Twitter, which you definitely should, there's a few things. If you go to my Twitter and go to lists, you can see the list that I look at daily, and you'll find important data that you'd never think to look at, like this. This was great. This came on the 20th of April. This guy's verified. He's an ETF analyst for Bloomberg, so he knows what he's talking about. And he says, I don't think I have ever seen the three amigos, which he's referring to SPY, the IVV, and VOO, which are two other ETFs, at the top of weekly outflows, combining for 18 billion in outflow, causing a rare negative flow week for ETFs as a whole. Meanwhile, gold is leading inflows. This is pretty bearish, but it's only 1 week. And so this, if me pounding the table on it wasn't enough, you can see true inflow and outflow numbers are telling you the same, that we're extremely bearish. But the market makers just did a great job of propping it, that they were going to be able to do it sneakily, if that's a word, and quiet, I guess we could say, without anyone noticing, and they did just that. So I guess if there's anything that you people that thought it was going to 500 and failed to listen can take away from this, is to not always be one-sided. Don't always be a perma bull. Don't always be a perma bear. I mean, and you could say that I was a perma bear for a month, but there's substance to back up why I think that move is coming. As opposed to these other people saying we're going to 500, I would say why, and they can't tell me why why SPYs should go to $500 and make a $50 move to the upside still after overperforming the market by 4 times last year. So it's important to always have a thesis and conviction and reasoning as to why you think something is going to happen. And so I guess I don't really know what else to say. I wasn't going to come on here and be all snobby about this, because even as much as I wanted to, because of how many times I was told I was wrong. But going to remain humble. I've said what I needed to say, and I just hope there's a lesson that some people can take from this. Where we go next, we kind of lie in no man's land right now. I'll be watching the next few hours, next day or two action, and we'll go from there. I can make another video on it if people are still curious. My favorite thing to cover is SPY. So if there's any questions you have on SPY or any other video topics you want covered involving SPY, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and um, I'd happily make another video, or just any video requests you have in general. Feel free to comment those below. And yeah, all my social medias will be in the description. You can find me on there. I post all my updates. That's where I posted my thesis behind this and how I thought we were going to where we did. And yeah, feel free to follow me on there. I appreciate you guys watching. Sorry for the break-in videos. I didn't really have much. I've been a little busy. But that's besides the point. I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.